Biggest questions for the LSU Tigers in 2024. Everyone's really pointing to the defensive tackle, and like that's an obvious one. They have a lot of big guys leaving that room. Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, Jordan Jefferson, all going off to the NFL. So that is definitely a position of need. BK has come out himself and said, hey, we are addressing the defensive tackle position in the spring portal that had just opened up. So that's the obvious one. They definitely need to address that. They're looking at Philip Bleedy from Indiana. That's probably going to be their top prospect, but we'll see. We'll see who comes out in the transfer portal there. But I'm curious about their secondary. Their secondary was put together by bits and pieces last year from the transfer portal the prior year, and it was just a shit show. It was a mess. Put it bluntly, they just sucked. And their total defense, they ranked in the hundreds in pretty much like every statistical category last year. They ranked 108th in team defense, 109th in yards per play, 117th in passing, just like all across the board, their defense sucked. And what did they do? They cleared house. They got rid of Matt House. They got rid of their entire defensive staff, cornerbacks coach, safeties coach, D-line coach, cleared everyone out. Brought in Blake Baker from Mizzou. He did a fantastic job with the Missouri Tigers last year. He's now at LSU. They bring back Corey Raymond as a defensive backs coach. So they have upgraded, I think, in terms of their defensive coaching staff. But will that translate to on the field? And based on what we've seen and what we've heard from spring, a lot of those old and bad tendencies that we saw from last year are peeking their head up again this year. Like, didn't show a lot of promise in the spring game this year. They struggled up front. They had some bad coverage breaks, especially early on in the spring game. They gave up lots of big plays. Nuss picked apart the secondary. He went 7 for 7 for like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. So there was definitely a lot of things to take note of and to address and to learn from. Kylan Jackson, he was a second team safety. He was really the guy that made the biggest splash and impact that we saw in the spring game the last weekend. So we'll look to see him. He's a second team, and there's Brian Kelly came in after and said that he did a great job, and there's a lot of room for growth. So we'll see how that pans out. But to start, they're going to have P.J. Woodland and Ashton Stamps at corner. They'll have Jordan Gilbert and Sage Ryan at safeties with Major Burns at star positions. Now, Sage Ryan and Major Burns, they're kind of flip-flopping positions from what they were last year. Sage Ryan is moving from safety. He moved from safety to corner last year because they didn't have any corners. So now he'll be back at his normal position at safety. He should be able to be a little bit better. He's just a bigger guy. So I think he'll be better off at safety. Major Burns, very versatile. He was at safety. Now he's in the star position that LSU features. I think he'll be good in that. Their whole defense is working on a new scheme, so it takes a while to build from the bottom. Don't want to take too much out of the spring game, but really a lot of what we saw did not bode very well for that defense. Now the tricky part is that there is 88 scholarships currently given out to the LSU team. So as it is, they are 3 spots over what their given scholarship amount is. They need to bring 3 scholarships down to get it to that 85 number. So that's going to make the transfer portal a bit difficult. Obviously, BK has come out and said he wants to be aggressive in the defensive tackle position. But I'm questioning what they're going to do for the secondary, as that's also a need for them and a big struggling point for them last year. Now, Cormani McLean just hit the portal. Could they go after him? 5-star guy out of Florida, was committed to Miami, then went to follow Dion to Colorado. Didn't really work out. Didn't do all that great last year, but was the number 1 ranked corner in the 2023 class. So we'll see if they go after him. I think if there's a big name in the defensive backs or in the corners in the portal, I think they'll be aggressive. But the secondary and the defensive tackle position, that's where I'm looking for LSU this year.